Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I thought it'd be fun to do a little still life, and I'm posting this video a day early because I made an error in the Sat Chat video this week. I have a class I'm teaching, it's free, it's going to be live on the Michaels website. I'll put a link in the video description on Thursday the 26th. I said Friday in Sat Chat, so I want to make sure I catch everybody if they want to catch a class live. Now if you're watching this after Thursday the 26th, then you'll be able to catch the replay on the Michaels website or the Michaels YouTube channel. But if you are wanting to take a free live class with me, this is going to be going on at 1 p.m. on Thursday the 26th at michaels.com, and there's a link in the video description where you can sign up for free. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there so that anyone that heard me say Friday on Sat Chat, hopefully I've caught them and they have they've realized, or they've looked at their calendar and they realize Lindsay doesn't know what day it is. So it is always just safe to assume that I don't know what day it is. So anyway, I had my little jar of supplies that I'm going to be using for the class sitting on my shelf, and I thought, you know, that would be really fun to sketch, and that's what we're going to do today. So I didn't want to tip it over because I have my pencils just so. Actually, there's a bunch more pencils that go in that jar for that class, but I thought it was prettier with fewer. And I'm sketching right on my watercolor paper, and I'm going to use a col erase pencil. And you could go right in with a pen if you wanted to, or you can go in with a regular graphite pencil. I'm using this indigo col erase pencil because I can draw a little darker, and hopefully you'll be able to see it a little bit better on camera. But if I was just doing this, and not filming it, I would go really lightly with my pencil lines so that you pretty much can't see them. So keep that in mind if you're sketching at home. And if a mason jar of art supplies is not your cup of tea, look around your home and see what you have that you think would be really interesting to sketch, and sketch that. So I know that a lot of times the things I'm interested in drawing is not what everybody's interested in drawing. We're all different people. But instead of being like, well, I don't like ducks, so I'm not going to watch Lindsay's tutorial on how to draw a duck. Instead, maybe think, well, I like goldfinches, or I like foxes, or I like something different. I'll draw that instead, and I can still take advantage of the tips and tricks for using a medium and have it, you know, appeal to what I'm doing. So maybe you don't have any interest in drawing a mason jar full of art supplies. I mean, well, I don't know why you wouldn't, but maybe you don't. But maybe you have a pretty figurine sitting on your windowsill that you've always loved. It speaks to you. It has meaning. Draw that. Draw the pretty copper bundt pan that was your grandmother's that you have hanging on the wall. Draw something that means something to you, and don't worry about it, you know, about it not being artworthy. You know, draw what, if you're interested in it, then it's artworthy for you. I'm not even going to worry about having it absolutely perfect or symmetrical, because sometimes I think these kind of like sketchy everyday objects look better when they are a little sketchy looking. And this is kind of a squared off mason jar here. And since I am drawing darker, I'm going to let it go a little bit. I'm not going to worry too much about it being a little wonky. That side has got to be bigger, though, to match this side. We have another ridge here. I want to get in there. And then when I go in, because I'm going to ink this with pen, when I go in with a pen, I will just, you know, pretty much just hit the highlights. I'll hit the spots where I'm sure it's accurate, and I'll just leave everything else out, basically. Okay, this is a ball jar, so we've got that beautiful quintessential ball jar label. Now my jar is clear, but I love the ball jar blue, so I will be making mine that kind of turquoisey blue, and you can do whatever you want. And I'm just using my very best penmanship, which is not very good, to write the word ball. And I'll, you know, I will fuss with it. Didn't leave room for the word ideal, but the word ideal is under there. Yeah, now I'm going to get we got a paintbrush here, a really thick acrylic handled brush. You can grab a ruler if you want. There'll be some distortion in here, so I'm not even going to worry about what's happening inside the jar too much. I like how the glass distorts things, especially those clear handles. We've got so much clear stuff happening. I love it. The ferrule, let's move that up like that, bring that up in a straight line. Kind of this flattening out there. And we've got our hairs, the hairs of the brush, the bristles. It's kind of 3/4 view. Then we we've got some pencils, which again, you can use a straight edge, a little ruler or something if you want to, or just strike some real forceful lines, and you'll probably be able to get a pretty straight line that way. It's a nice Derwent watercolor pencil there. They have nice thick leads. Derwent has really nice, they make really good pencils. I have to say, like, I know I use Prismacolor a lot because they work really well with mixed media, but I will say to anybody that listens that they're not as good quality as a Derwent pencil. The lead, because Derwent has stronger leads. They're just a good pencil. My favorite Derwent pencil is the Light Fast range. That's not a watercolor pencil. That's it's a regular color pencil. I actually think it's an oil base pencil, but I really like it because I know whatever I do with that is going to last. It's not going to fade on me. And that's, I would not guarantee that with Prismacolor or many other pencil brands, really. And that's not saying anything against Prismacolor or any other brand. It's just that's, you pay a premium for that. Let's see, we've got a couple, right, this one's kind of standing up straight. Gosh, I'll try to remember to move this in front of my photo area and take a photo of this and post it on Instagram or my blog or something, just so you have that reference if you want that to go by. I think I'll probably post it on Instagram, so that it'll be up there on Instagram when this video comes out, and then I'll probably post it again on my blog just to be safe. I don't like how those are converging though. I think. Let me get this other one in here and then figure out what I want to do, because I don't really like the way those are overlapping. That's why I took a bunch out, because I didn't like the way they looked like they were overlapping. I love these little quick everyday sketches because it doesn't seem like it's such a big deal. I don't like to use the erasers on my pencils because I'm never certain they're going to be soft enough. So I like to use a plastic eraser. And you don't have to spend a lot on these. I get these at the Dollar Tree. Just look for that white vinyl type material. Okay, I'm just gonna make this one a little shorter because I didn't like how that was overlapping in real life. Or how it was going to overlap the way I sketched it anyway. Okay, I think that's good enough. Now, you have the choice of inking it now, like with a waterproof pen, or inking it later with whatever pen you like. I generally will ink it after, because that way, a lot of times I'm still kind of working out my sketch as I'm painting, and that just gives me a little bit more wiggle room. So if I make some mistakes, I'm going to be able to correct it later, which I like. So I'm going to start off. I'm just using a number 8 round, and I'm going to grab some of this kind of turquoisey color. Now I can tell you a funny story about this palette. So yesterday I was in the old craft area and I was filming a video for you guys, and the premise of the video, and I talked about it during Sat Chat, I wanted to go through and find all of those like watercolor sets and stuff that were like virtually the same as other watercolor sets, and do a video on that. And so I was getting out all those my budget paints and kind of grouping them up, and I dropped this palette. This is, I wouldn't call this a budget set. These are the Derwent Inktense blocks. Pan paints. They're not very expensive. It's 24 colors. I think it's around between 30 and 50 depending on where you get it. Blick usually has the best price. But anyway, I totally dropped it, and it just fell. All of the pans spilled out, and they look so dark that I was putting them back, and I was like, oh no, I don't have these all in the right place. I know it. So I'm like, well, I'm going to use that one next so that I can kind of just test it and make sure I have them in the right spot. And I had a couple that I put down in the wrong places, but I was able to put them back where they go so they would match my swatch that I made, because I always make a swatch for products that look different in the palette or in the package than they do when I paint them. So like watercolors, markers, that sort of thing. I don't swatch color pencils. I was swatching my color pencils if I was reviewing them, but if they're a regular color pencil, not like a water soluble color pencil, I don't swatch them because you look at the leads and what you see is what you get. That's my way of dealing with it anyway. Although if you like swatching, then there's no reason you shouldn't swatch. I mean, there's nothing wrong with swatching. It's a great icebreaker for getting to know your supplies and kind of getting your supplies to, get something, gives you something to do. Now I got to figure out, I have so many lights in the studio and I'm looking at where my lights are. I've got lights everywhere. So I don't have a good directional light source on my still life. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it one. I'm going to say the light's coming this way mainly, and I'm going to pull some water off to the right side. A little bit in front and off to the right. All right, so the reason I wet the jar is because I want to put in some of that turquoisey paint, and I want it to kind of spill around and fill, but not like, I don't want a really solid color. I want it to be very soft. Now I am going over where the handle of that brush is because it's an Aquarelle handle, which means it's made of clear plastic and it's got a beveled edge so you can scrape into your painting if needed. Those are really nice. I think you should at least have one of those, like a 1-inch flat Aquarelle brush. It is, and with golden tack-on bristles. They're not crazy expensive. They used to be. My first one was $20 back in like 1980, and it was like just a 1/2 inch from the brand Elvin. I still have it actually. They do last if you take care of them. But now, I mean, you can get a Royal Aqualon for much less. You can get a Polar Flow, which has white nylon bristles, not golden. That one's sold by Jerry's Artorama. There's lots of options now. Now, I want to let that color kind of sploop out to the edge. Because if you have a colored ball jar, it's going to cast the color onto your surface. Oh, by the way, all my classes for the next few days until September 1st are on sale over in my Teachable School. That's lindsayweirich.teachable.com with the coupon code FUN40, and I'll put that in the video description. And I do have a class all on painting glass if you're looking for something like that. I want to put some light in the glass. I'm going to just take a little bit of this yellow. It would be the second one, and it would be that one right there. So it's not that one that's almost green undertoned. It's the next one. What do they call that? Goodness gracious. It's called Sun Yellow. I'll put some of that right in the middle. I think of it as like the jars like captured some light. I'd love to do that with my mason jars. Now you could have, now with the Inktense actually, you could have painted all of the things inside the jar first, and then let that dry, and then gone over it with the outside color without lifting, because that's one of the benefits of the Inktense. But I figure probably a lot of you guys are going to be using regular watercolors, so I didn't want to. I didn't want to, I wanted to kind of show how I would do it with regular watercolors, just because you can also do it that way with Inktense, but that way you're not going to be messed up if you're using regular watercolors. Now something else I want to do is go a little bit darker on the edges and the bottom of the jar with the turquoisey color. I just looked up at my camera because I'm like, oh, what if I forgot to hit the start button? I can't believe I've never done that, knock on wood. But I'm like, that would be so easy to do. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just looking at my still life. I'm looking at, because I am using clear, I have a clear jar, that was my subject. I am just looking for where the glass looks darker, and that's where I'm putting more of the blue. And the more practice you get, you'll be able to, change a vase from a plain clear vase to a colored vase. You'll get used to identifying the undertones and whatnot. So don't fret if you're not there yet. Oh, I like that. Don't fret if you're not there yet. That should be a catchphrase. That should be my slogan. Don't fret if you're not there yet. Don't you like that? I do. Okay. Let's see, and the bottom of this will generally be a little bit darker. I'm gonna grab, do I want to put the ball part in there yet? I'm actually gonna soften that a little bit there. Oh, with Inktense, if you are wanting to blend or soften something, you got to do it when it's wet. Otherwise, you can have some issues because once it dries, it's gonna become like ink on the paper, like India ink, and it's not going to want to lift back up again. I think I want to take a little bit of that pretty turquoise. I'm gonna take a little bit of that phthalo blue. What do they call it? They call it bright blue, but it's like a phthalo blue. So if you're doing regular watercolors, you'd go for your phthalo blue or your intense blue, depending on what brand you're using. And mixing that with our turquoise. And I'm just going to go in and get some of those darker areas while it's still damp. Now, you could also use your Inktense blocks, like the pan paints if you want to. They do have some different colors in the pan paints that are not in the blocks, which I like. I have the blocks. I have to say I find myself going for the pan paints more than the blocks. Unless I'm doing something like fabric. If I'm working on fabric, I like the blocks because I can get a lot of color down. But on paper, work on paper, I really like the pan paints. And the pan paints, they have chosen the colors to be light fast, which the least light fast is this cherry red right here. It's like a 4 on the blue wool scale, but the other ones are 6 through 8. So they're not bad. And that is probably the biggest difference between the blocks and the pan paints and the blocks is that you've got that additional security with the pan paints, which I like. And since I'm using them in mixed media on paper, on stuff that I wouldn't want to fade. I mean, this is a sketchbook, I'm not that worried about it, but I'm glad that that's an option with these. So I think they curated some of the colors that were more light fast, but they also added a few new ones that aren't in the range of pencils anyway. And my blocks have I've worn off all the numbers on the blocks because I was using them like pan paints. So yeah, I never know what I got when I've got the blocks. I don't even swatch those out because it's like, yeah, I'm not going to know what I have because I've worn the numbers off. But I find the more that you're used to the materials you have, the less you would even rely on a swatch. Like with markers, like I have to rely on the swatch to begin with, but then after a while, I find I don't really need to. Now, when I'm doing the letters here, I'm just kind of hitting it here and there. I don't want to outline it because it's going to look really unnatural. I know my face is a little wonky. We're gonna come to that. We're gonna get there. That's why I do the inking at the end, because I can fuss with it with the paint. I can kind of smoosh things and draw things out a little bit as I'm going. I can put a little line here, a little line there, and then eventually get everything where it needs to be. So that's why I ink last. Unless I've got a really good drawing I'm going from, like I drew on scrap paper or something like that, which I do sometimes. Okay, next thing I'm going to work on is the ferrule up here, because that's not touching any place that's wet, so I don't have to stop and dry anything. Let's see, I think I'm going to do, is this Payne's Gray? Yep, Payne's Gray. By the way, funny thing is, oh, that's not Payne's Gray, that's black. The funny thing about these paints, because I've used them quite a few times, and when they all fell, some of them I put in upside down. So the bottom side was facing up, and I found that like some of the colors seemed brighter when I went to re-swatch them. It's like, oh, I wonder if I had them I wonder if like one side was better than the other. All right, and I'm also going to use some yellow ochre. They call it, burnt yellow ochre. I generally, regardless of the paints that I'm using, I generally will use the most customary names for a color, because I know what you typically get when you're first starting, your basic colors. It just makes it a little bit easier if you're following at home and you're using like maybe the Cotman Sketcher set of 12, or you're using, something that's, it's a little bit more customary. There's so many crazy color names from certain companies, and so many of them are so similar to just like yellow ochre, but then there'll be like 5 other colors that look pretty much like yellow ochre. You know what? If you got yellow ochre or you got raw sienna, you're probably going to be able to do it just fine. with what you have. The reason there are so many colors is because, you know, people are interested in them. I mean, some people are very picky about what color, what shade of color they have. I'm not one of those people. But, you know, as you paint, you can always pick exactly the yellow ochre-like shade that you like, or the, you know, the cool blue. Maybe you like Prussian blue. Maybe you like phthalo blue. You know, you'll come to your preferences, but when you're mixing, you're still just going to need one cool blue for mixing, and, you know, one cool yellow, one warm yellow. So I don't think you need to have the same exact specific paints that I'm using. I'm just putting in some sharp lines just to give it almost like a metallic look, and I'm going to let that dry because I can glaze over it with another color if I need to. Now I've got the yellow ochre handy, and I switched to a smaller brush mainly so I don't get too much paint. I'm going to take the yellow ochre, and I'm going to go ahead and paint in our bristles. Try to keep my hand out of the way. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of, let's see, what do they call it? Red ochre. And I think is that red ochre? No, I don't know. I think I might have moved those, swapped their places. Yeah, red ochre is what I want. And I did mix it with a little bit of the natural brown. And I'm just going to very gently, that wasn't very gently, kind of streak it in there. Now the nice thing with the Inktense, well, it might be nice, it might not be, depends on what you like. But the thing I like is that I don't get cauliflowers with this. Like, even if I'm going like into a damp wash, I feel like the like it's less likely to feather, and it's less likely to give me those cauliflowers, which is like, you know, the blooms when you're painting and you get that kind of like a blossom or bloom, you know, you get that kind of, oh, you know what I mean, right? Frilly, kind of frilly edged shape. If you're not painting this, but you're painting along, doing something from your, I had a thing of water on my ferrule and it just slid off my brush and totally flooded that area. If you're painting something different, let me know in the comments below. Oh, I kind of like that, just that little lifting that color out. Although it does need to have more color in it, so. Oh, by the way, that Michael's class, that free class that I'm teaching tomorrow, or on the 26th, that is available to anyone, anywhere in the world. You just need to go to the Michael's USA site to sign up, and that's a link that I'll put in the description. And sometimes I've noticed, like, if I've just posted a video talking about it, it can be, the website can be, like, having an error or something. I just think it's because too many people went to the website at once. So now I'm mixing some of that burnt red ochre, was it called? No, just red ochre with the burnt yellow ochre to get kind of like a very, very pale beige. And I'm going to paint the tops of all of the pencils with that. So I am trying to avoid any of the wet areas on my paper. I think this is going to be really cute. I love stuff like this in my sketchbook because it's like a little peek of what I was working with, what project I was on. You know, when I look back and I see, like, I've painted my palette or something like that. Usually they're really quick sketches. I usually don't spend too much time on them. Just kind of like a warm-up almost. So that's another thing. That's a really great warm-up if you're like, I don't know what to paint, but I want to paint something. Rather than twiddling your thumbs for 2 hours waiting for that perfect piece of inspiration to hit you, just look around and paint the first thing you see. And maybe halfway through your sketch you'll be like, oh, I wish I did something else, or you come up with a better idea. Then you can just abandon it and go to that other idea because it's not precious, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to blast this with my heat tool, and then we're going to come back and carry on. All right, this is nice and dry. The barrels of these are kind of like a, they're an indigo, like a really dark indigo. And I believe we have an indigo, we got a Payne's Gray. I think the Payne's Gray is pretty close. I'm going to grab a brush that's somewhat in between. Let's do this number 4. And let's grab the Payne's Gray. Golly, that's just about right, actually. I think I want just a smidgen of blue. I'm going to take some of this blue because we've already used that there. That'll be good. I just want to make sure I have enough, so I'm going to get a little bit more out. All right, so that was bright blue and Payne's Gray, and I'm going to first do the bristles as they're out of the jar. And then I'll do them as they're inside the jar. Oh, another thing I have to use in this painting, besides the black pen, is I have a silver gel pen. And it's a really good one. It's Pentel Slicky. But man, you know, anytime I find a gel pen that's like white or gold or silver and it works good, I'm like, I guard it with my life. It seems like it's so hard to find a good gel pen that that actually does not clog. Uniball Signos are my favorite whites. And every once in a while you get like some no-name brand one and it's really good, and then you can't even buy one if you want to. I had one that came in a kit. It was a budget kit from Pagos, and man, that gel pen, actually the brushes that came in the kit were really good too. The paint was okay, but man, the brushes and the gel pen were really good. I think I'm going to fatten this one up a little bit because this one's in front. That's one thing that's kind of nice about the Inktense is that you can layer over. There's that with the white in there, and that set is so opaque. It's really nice. In fact, I'm going to order, next time I have a Blick order going in, I'm going to order a couple extra pans of the white, the Inktense Antique White pan, because, you know, like if you're a painter and you like to have some white gouache and you put it in a pan, how it generally will want to crack and fall out unless you use it like all the time. And then sometimes it's hard to re-wet. The Inktense Antique White pan is so opaque and wonderful. You just put a little drop of that on there before you start. In fact, I should probably do that right now. I'm going to put a little drop of water on there. Just in case we need it, it's going to be there ready to go. It's just so opaque and wonderful to use. Adding a little bit of water in here for these front ones just so they'll be a little bit lighter. Now, something you might not like about the Inktense pan paints versus watercolor is that they all have a fairly similar texture to them. You're not going to get like the, you know, nuanced granulation that you might get from some colors. Like, you know, if you have a set of like fine watercolors from a, you know, major watercolor brand, you're going to have some colors that granulate. You're going to have some colors that are smoother. You're going to have some colors that are a little bit sedimentary, a little bit more opaque. You're going to have some that are super transparent. So you're going to have that little bit of nuance between the colors. And a product like ink, like these Inktense products are, they're going to be more consistent. And some people love that consistency and other people don't like the consistency. Like, I wouldn't use these for, say, like a moody sky landscape because I would want some granulating colors. I would want those little differences between the colors to be apparent in my landscape. But if I'm doing something like this, or I'm doing like the bottom layers of a painting, like I have a tutorial on my channel where I'm doing a fish in the water, and doing the fish in the Inktense was really nice because then I could layer over it and not have to worry about the fish getting smudged out. Feel free to turn your paper too if it's awkward the way you're approaching it. Okay, now I am going to add some water to this, and I think I'm going to switch to a larger brush as well. And I'm going to paint the rest of the pencils in the jar. Now, I do want to make a notation because there is like a little bit of a stripe on the end of the pencil. I only want to paint down to above that stripe. The stripe is silver, and the writing is silver, so I want to make sure that, I guess it wouldn't matter because those would show up either way. So I just want to make sure that I account for that. And I'm going to have to make sure that, oh, my pencils, I have the bottoms matching the tops. of the pencils. I do a lot of just kind of like making it up as I go along. That's why inking at the end works for me. Do I have, let's see, how many, well, I'll just figure out how many I need now. I'm going to make a little bit more of that paint. All right, I'm really going to load this brush up, make sure I don't have any water on the ferrule there. And I'm going to start painting these guys in the jar. So when it comes like when it comes to them crossing some of the bumpy areas of the jar, I'm going to make sure that they're a little distorted so it looks natural. And then if it's like kind of coming in front of like the aquarelle handle, then I'll probably just do something kind of off the wall there. Zoop, zoop, zoop. You can be really free. This can be very forgiving. You don't have to worry about things being perfect. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. We've got coming out from behind. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we get another back here. Can't really see that one. Okay, now we're going to have a little bit of distortion. These colors will kind of like just be reflected and refracted and give us some interesting shapes. And then on the aquarelle handle, let's see, I'm seeing kind of like a shape like that. Seeing it kind of come down like that. Okay, now we can work on the tips of the lead. Back to a smaller brush for that. We'll start off with a red one. Well, the smaller brushes, you have to watch for the barrels, the beads of water on the ferrule of the paintbrush. And let's see, we'll get that end put in there. Oops, I should have saved a little of that out because I can mix it with the yellow. Get some orange. Having a hard time not making them too fat, but oh well. Got some green here. Actually, it's helpful. I'm painting Inktense products and I'm using Inktense pans, so some of the colors match perfectly. Of course, there's more colors of the pencils than there are the pan paints, but let's see, can I see any of that? We're going to pretend that matches up. And then this one is a different color, green. Kind of like a olivey green. Get a little bit darker. Key within the glass, don't get it too fussy because you want to keep it kind of nondescript, because glass, what do you want to say? It distorts it. Does that make sense? Hope so. Now let's see. This last one here is a bright, beautiful blue. We're going to just use the bright blue on its own. Brushes I'm using are Creative Mark Mimic. Ooh, I think I'll add some of this mid ultramarine. I love that color. It's one of those colors that you see in well, it seems like I only see it in Derwent products. It's in the Derwent Lightfast as well. They don't have all the same colors in every line. I think they go with whatever pigments are going to be best suited to the binders. Okay, I do feel like I need a little bit more color in some of the barrels here. And a lot of this is just kind of tweaking. You don't have to go as dark as it is in real life, but I do try to get the values somewhat accurate. I mean, I want the picture to look good, so I mean, if it means changing a color to make the picture end up looking a little bit better, I'll do that. But I do like to make sure my values are pretty accurate. Okay, one thing I haven't done yet is the handle. So I'm going to take some of this red ochre and I'm going to take some Payne's Gray, a little more red ochre because that's a little dark, and I am going to put that kind of irony it's another thing, if you drop water on top of your Inktense painting, it doesn't lift up a big white spot like it would if it was with the with like a regular watercolor. So I'm not I really like these. You might too. I'm not trying to sell you on them, but they are a fun product. I like them more than I thought I was going to, honestly. I thought, what do I need these for? I've got the blocks. But I have to say that I really do enjoy them. Okay, so here we've got this other part that comes in down below. And then you might see little tiny bits of this color actually, I'll move it back a little bit. You might see it kind of reflected in the glass or here and there, so I'll just kind of like sneak a little bit in to show that, okay, there's some reflections, there's probably some, you know, maybe we're seeing through the glass a little bit. So a lot of the stuff I do is kind of, in addition to seeing what's really there, I also do kind of use a little bit of my artistic license and wing it. Secret's out, friends. And I want some of this color actually on the bottom of the bottom of the vase as well. You can have a little bit of that over here. And some dark tones of, like, with that turquoise in it as well. I just really enjoy painting glass, even if it's kind of like more of a whimsical freeform glass. I still really just enjoy it. I love how glass can move light and color around. A little bit darker back there. Okay, I can also take some of that color and go back into the ball area and add a little bit of definition. I want to smooth that out. I'm not crazy about that. I could go into the pencil as well. That's something that you might want to do. Grabbing some different browns. I'm not really... Ooh, that one's purple. That brown is purple! That's not what I was looking for. What color is this brown? That brown's purple. See, it's so hard to tell. It's a beautiful purple. It's almost like a eggplanty color. Yeah, I'm going to go for this one. I'm not keen on what's going on right there. Ooh, and I made it worse. What do you know? Okay. So now I'm going to take the silver pen. I'm actually going to zap this real quick because if you've ever tried to go over something with a pen and it's been damp, you probably have had that experience of your pen has stopped working. So I don't want that to happen. Oh, something else I want to do. I'm noticing that I think my shadow needs to be a little bit darker here. So I'm going to go and just wet like kind of the perimeter. And it looks like we should have a little bit of a shadow from the... Oh gosh, I can't see where I just painted that. It looks like we should have a little bit of a shadow from the wire. And then you always get a little bit darker on the edges. That's a little bit dark right there. I'm going to try to lift it a little bit. There we go. You can lift it while it's still dry. I mean, while it's still wet. Alright, just needed a little something. Okay, so now we can do highlights and we can do details. I'm going to do the details first with a silver pen. And I am going to turn my thing around because there's no way. There's just no way. So, England in all caps right here. And we get Derwent here, like, actually no, what part of England? Let's see if I can get a full Derwent here. I'm trying to think what would be short enough. Would anything be short enough to do Derwent? Trying to think of where it would be. Is that in camera? Okay, barely. And I fully expect to misspell something. Here, I'm just going to do some squiggles. on that side because you really won't be able to see them. Do the same thing here, and I can help divide them. And then we have the stripy detail on the bottom, which I probably should have left out now that I think about it, because I don't really want that metallic on the inside of the jar. I think I'm just going to tap that over with a little bit of that turquoisey color. Now that I see that, I wish I didn't do that. Oh, you know what though? That's actually something good, because we can splish splash some of that color on top of things. Oh yeah. And then we can do some white highlights and they'll show up better. So go right ahead and do your thing. Oh yes, I like that. Okay, I feel like that should be a little bit, I'll turn this upside down and look at it. I do that because then if something is off, I usually can see it, and of course I should have done that back in the drawing phase, because it's so much easier to correct in the drawing phase. But no matter. Any day you paint's a good day. Bad day of painting is still better than a good day with no painting. Those little clips are getting in my way. Alright, I'm going to need to draw this before I do any highlights, so why don't I just pause the camera and we'll come back in a minute when this is all nice and dry. You know, I'm kind of liking this, to be honest with you. Okay, so I've got my my white block here. Remember we put a drop of water in there, and then I actually just sprayed a little water on there and just kind of stirred it up with this little #2 round. This is a Da Vinci Nova synthetic. Came in a art subscription box. I really like it. And I'm going to go in and start adding some of my brightest highlights. Now if you have a really skinny highlight you want to put in there, you can use a white gel pen or a white Posca pen. In fact, I might end up doing that. I'm going to add some more water to this. I'm going to do it with a spray bottle because my rinse water can be a little bit murky. This one, the white pan didn't fall out when I dropped the palette because I've used it so much that it has just like fused itself into the little plastic pan. Like a little bit of there, a little bit over here. Now I got to remember that the primary light source I chose is coming over from this way. So even though light can scatter, I'm going to get a lot of my highlights. I need to make sure that I have a lot of them over on this side, just to be consistent with the painting. I think I might have diluted this pan a little too much to get it to flow. The handle on this brush has quite a highlight. I might need to go over it with the turquoisey color afterwards if it looks too bright. I might be able to just thin it down enough with just some water to make it look alright. Now I want to also I'm going to put that on my palette a little bit, get it spread around on my bristles, get it to the tip of the bristles. And then these are hexagonal barrels, so these will have a highlight. And they don't necessarily have to be right on the edge, they can catch. they can catch on any of their hexagonal edges that would be facing the light source. And you can see a little bit of highlight in the glass. Again, I would use it pretty thin down. Okay. At this point, I think I'm going to do my inking with the black pen. When I zoom, I was thinking, do I want to zoom in? I don't think I want to zoom in. I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way as much as possible. This is a 0.5. I might actually need to go to a thicker nib, because I'll probably, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and go to a thicker nib, because if I use a thicker nib, I can use it on its edge a little bit. Do I have an 8? Yeah. Because I can use it on the corner, and then I will get a fine line. That way you can see what I'm doing. Does that make sense? All right, I don't think I'm gonna ink every little bit, because, and I'm gonna keep turning my work around to make it comfortable. But I know I'm not 100% accurate, so I don't want to ink every single edge. So I'm going to do a lost and found line. I don't know if that's an actual technique that people who ink use, but it's a technique that I use because I tend not to draw first. Like I mean I sketch enough so I can get going, get kind of in there and on with it, but I'm not doing I know my hand's getting in the way. But I'm not doing a really detailed sketch. If I was going to do a really detailed sketch, I would do that on scrap paper and then transfer it. I know a lot of artists would do this on like an app. What is it? Procreate that a lot of them use. They would do it on that, and then they would print it out and transfer it onto their watercolor paper, which is really smart if you like to use computer apps. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I am not. I mean, I have to use a computer for my business. And I like it for that, you know, I like to be able to, you know, talk with you guys in classes and stuff on my computer, but as far as creating artwork, I really don't want to do it on my computer. I don't like it. Or on my phone. I don't want to have to use an app to make my art. I'm sorry that I have to keep putting my hand in there. I think that's kind of charming. I think a wonky mason jar is actually kind of charming. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, friends. I do not know why my chair is so squeaky. Jason WD-40'd it for me, and it's still so squeaky. I think that's cute. All right. I think something else I sometimes do when I am inking, I'm sorry, my hand, is that like if I've got something's in a jar, something's out of a jar, a lot of times I will only ink the things that are out of the jar. I don't ink the things within the jar. And I do that to kind of make it appear less dominant and under the glass. So you can try that technique and see if it works for you. I like it. But again, I mean, art is so personal. You know, the way you develop your style, everyone's like, how do I get my style, Lindsay? I don't know what my style is. Your style comes from how you draw. Your style comes from what inspires you and what you like to do. And, you know, it might not be what's popular. It might not even be something people even do. You might be the first. So don't worry about copying what somebody else is doing. Learning techniques is very important. I don't want to say don't learn techniques. You should definitely learn techniques. But don't let that be, you know, where you stop. If you like the way something looks, then do it. You might like the look of a really loose sketch, or you might like the look of a really detailed sketch and then really loose watercolor on top. And it does not hurt one single bit to experiment with these. I'm going to try tipping it like that. I think you might be able to see me ink a little bit better. It doesn't hurt you a bit to experiment. It doesn't cost you anything to try something new. If you already have the supplies at home, they're bought and paid for. You might as well use them. Like I say, you should be the one to use your supplies, not somebody who buys it for a quarter at a yard sale after you're dead. I love little sketches of my art supplies. I really like having art supplies. I know it sounds silly, probably, but it's fun. I think art supplies are like the things that the possessions that keep on giving, because it's fun to use them and it's fun to have them. It's fun to buy them. It's fun to share them. I love to share supplies. So when I do the little cursive thing here, because I have terrible handwriting, I am just trying to hit where I see the darkest parts of the lettering, because I just know my skills in lettering are not existent. So I've got to really I got to draw my letters. I can't do them like I'm painting them, because they're going to look bad. Okay. I think that's about all the inking that I want to do there. And then I'm just going to take my white gel pen. I wasn't planning on using it, but I'm going to, so gosh, I hope I have one handy. Goodness gracious, do I have a white gel pen handy? It's not like I don't use it every single day. Right here. Love-hate relationship, friends, with white gel pen. I'm going to put some just highlights on. I'm doing it on the wire because I want to show what's in front and what's in back. And I could do that with a brown color pencil too, so I mean, you can do it with whatever you want. I'm going to do some of the shiny highlights as well. And I'm going to make some up because I like highlights. And this will just give me those kind of slivers. I really need a new white gel pen. I need to add that when I'm ordering my pan paints. I'm going to make sure I put a gel pen on my list too. I always wait till I have enough to get free shipping. So sometimes it's a while. It's like $45, I think. And then I'll also compare. It's like, okay, I'll look between Blick and Jerry's Artorama usually, and I'll see who has most of what I need. Because all the stores stock, you know, similar stuff, but you know, there'll always be some things that are a little bit different. You know, there's a white paint that I love, an acrylic white paint. It's Acrylic is the brand, and I get it from Blick. I'm not even sure if the other store, if Jerry sells it, but it's such a wonderful white paint. It's a blockout white from Acrylic. It's a student grade paint. It's wonderful. My daughters use most of my acrylic paint, but I do like to have that. They like it as well. So I always order that one. Boy, what a random video. She's talking about, you know, she's doing a watercolor tutorial, but she's telling us about the acrylic paint she likes to buy. File that away to sometime if I ever need to know that. Keep a notebook, folks. Hence you, in case you miss one of my pearls of wisdom. Oh. All right, you know what? I'm pretty happy with this, I think. Do I want to do little shinies up here? Maybe a couple little shinies. I can do... At this point, I'm just fussing. I'm just fussing with it because it's fun. It's kind of hard to stop sometimes because you're like enjoying yourself, right? Which is not a bad thing. I like this. I think it's darn cute. I'm going to sign my name right there, or maybe there. I don't know. I'll sign it off camera. I won't make you suffer through that, but... Hey, thank you so much for watching till the end. You guys are my favorite people. You're watching till the end. Not many of you guys do that, so just know that you're my favorite. If you are interested in the free Michaels class, again, this is what we'll be doing in that. You can sign up for free. I'll have a link in the video description. It's happening Tuesday. Oh my gosh. No, I don't know my days. It's happening August 26th. That should be a Thursday. Depending on your time zone, it will be like noon, 1, 2, somewhere around there. Or maybe completely different if you're in another country. But yeah, there's a link in the video description. You can join no matter where you are in the world, and it's free. And if you're watching this after the 26th, when the live class is going on, then you can catch the replay on michaels.com/classes or on the Michaels YouTube channel. So I'm excited for that. I hope to see you there. I think it's going to be a good time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Hey, maybe tell a friend about this channel. That would really help me out and I would really appreciate it. So I can bring the love of art and crafts to more people on the internet. I think we all need a little more creativity in our lives. It's always a good thing, isn't it? Thank you so much again for watching. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.